everyone, Artie Tambarambaa or Tammy Porter here. Thanks so much for stopping by my YouTube channel, and today we're creating this Art by Marlene art journal page. So I've used a few of the markers. I've used the new Quotylicious quotes. I've used the new collage paper pad. I've also used these awesome, oh my god, love these, texture stamps, plus the Hexagon stars stencil, the A4 art journal. These are all from the new range. And then of course lots of paints, plus the glue, the sticky glue. So I've used lace, funky, Kissy and Ballet, and then punk, Fuchsia, Royal, Mermaid and Pitch. So I've listed all of these products in the description so you can find them and get the codes and everything. Okay, so I flipped through the collage paper pad and this page jumped out to me. I had no idea what I wanted to do today. I just wanted to play. I just have had a lot going on and I just wanted to play with some colour and just forget about everything for a little while. So straight away I did skip through the cutting out, fussy cutting of this tulip and flower, but I cut that out from the sheet, and it's sort of in the red tones, red's sort of reddy, orangey, pinky colour, and it was on like a dark green background, and I just thought I'm going to try putting it on a totally different colour background and see what happens. So I began with some Mermaid just down in the bottom. Now I haven't put gesso on my page. These are amazing papers that are in Marlene's journals. This particular journal is great because the papers are 300 GSM, so super thick. They cope really well with, watercolour, water on your page. They stand up super well. And you get so many pages in this journal, it's unreal. So I use the front and the back because the papers are so thick that nothing sort of bleeds through at all. So I began, as I said, with the Mermaid down in the bottom right corner, and then I've come in with some Fuchsia on top of that. And you'll notice that I popped some onto the page, and then I wet my brush quite a bit, and just to get that movement, just to get that paint. I wanted sort of thick painterly strokes. I wanted it to look painted on. I didn't want it to be seamless between the colours. So then I grabbed Royal and popped that on the top and the left hand side, which is a beautiful deep purple. Again, I mixed it with some water, and yeah, really happy with that look. I was like, I'm just playing, and sometimes, yeah, you surprise yourself. So now it's time to try and hide a little bit those lines where the joins are. So I'm coming in with some Mermaid paint, and I'm starting in the Mermaid, and then I'm laying down just with my fingers some of the Mermaid paint on top of some of the sort of Fuchsia and Ballet colour that I have there. And I'm just popping down the stencil, and with a damp baby wipe, I'm just pulling the paint off in between, and it leaves that gorgeous pattern behind. So you just want to make sure you're starting with the colour and then moving it across over the top of the other colours, and it then looks like it's blending seamlessly. I did the same with the Fuchsia. Started in the Fuchsia and then brought that stenciling in towards the Mermaid, and you can see how beautifully it sits on the surface. So every now and then I pop the what I've cut out back on to make sure that it looks good. Because of the tulips quite big, you are covering up quite a lot of the background, so you don't need to put stenciling everywhere, and it's really important to leave some plain colour as well as some patterned stenciling just to draw that eye in to see what's going on. So now I thought these stamps are just wonderful, and I thought let's see how they look on the page painted rather than stamped with ink. So I've come in with some of the Mermaid and I added a touch of water to it. So I'm using Marlene's craft mat, which is super, everything just wipes off. So I put some of the paint down on that, add a touch of water, and then stamp on, you know, put my stamp into the paint and then stamp it onto my page. And I did that with a couple of the different stamps, and I really love how that looks. You must clean. When I use ink on a page, like an archival ink, I don't clean them after, but when you are using a paint, you must clean them, because the paint will stay sitting on the surface and it will change the shape of the design. So you need to make sure you do clean them quickly afterwards. So then I'm coming with white paint. I think I did some stamping with the Ballet, and then I did the little dots stamping with white paint just in a few areas, and you'll notice that I joined the dots together because I didn't want it to look like it's just been stamped in that one spot. I want it to look like a little section has been done. So now I'm coming back in with that white paint, the lace, and just doing a few mark makings around where that stamp, the dotty stamp, has been. And this is just to create a bit more, you know, texture, interest into the background, keeping in mind that something's going to go on top of this, as in the tulip that I cut out will cover a lot of this up. Then I got the colour Punk, which I love, and I smeared a few little hints into the background here and there. Punk is a neon, and it's, oh my God, it's my favourite colour. If you follow me, you would have heard me say this many times, so I'm really sorry to repeat it, but it is worth repeating. So it looks fabulous on blues and pinks and purples because it just really provides a pop of colour. It sits on top, and it's hard to capture on camera, but in real life it just gives this beautiful little oomph to the page. So I did that in a couple of areas, and then just did a few little mark makings with that as well, with the Punk. And then I sort of laid down the tulip and the flower. And because I said they're a bit reddy, pinky, orange, I just felt like I needed to tie that into the background. So I used just a tiny bit of Kissy and did some mark making in 3 areas, top, side and bottom of the page, just to give that pinky, reddy tone to the background so that the flowers kind of look like they belong. And then I'm using the same colour, Kissy, just to add a touch more to the images that I've cut out, and I have glued those on. So it just means there's a little bit of that paint in the background and a little bit on the foreground, the flowers, and that just ties it all in together and makes it feel cohesive and that like it belongs. So then I've used one of the quotes from the Quotylicious set. That's an awesome news quote set, and each quote comes in black background with white writing and white background with black writing. So I chose the black writing on the white background, and I just trimmed them down into little sections and cut some of the edges off a little bit as well. And I'll pop those on in a moment. But in the meantime, I decided the top of that tulip needs just a little bit more oomph. So I'm using a few markers. I've just changed my mind. I started with sort of an orangey colour, and then I tried a bit of pink. I think I tried a bit of white, and I just wasn't, I was liking that I was adding something, but I wasn't loving the colour. So the beauty of these markers is they do cover really well. Like if you use them over the top of a colour you've already put down, they're very opaque, so they sit on top. So I think this is where I tried the white. And I did a few little highlights on the flowers with the white pen as well. And now I'm doing a few little mark makings in the background as well. Because I guess a bit of the white got covered up when I glued down the tulip. So I'm just bringing a little bit more white back in. And because the quote I'd chosen is white, mainly white with the black writing, I felt like it needed some extra white in the background. So there's some on the foreground and there's some in the background. So that's something that you'll notice I do a lot in my art, and it helps just to unite it all. So now I decide, and this bit, first I thought I'd ruined it, but I've left it in because it actually becomes something I really like about the page. So I got the black marker and I painted just in that top left corner. I just wanted some depth in that corner because that's my dark edge of the page. And I popped some of the marker and then smeared it with water. And I didn't like it. I was like, ugh, wish I hadn't done that. So I basically just came in with that deep purple, the royal again, and went over what I'd done. And what it did, it covered it up a little bit, but it really helped create that shadowing. So I'm actually really happy with it. It's funny how sometimes what you do and you think, oh no, I wish I could go back a step. You know, there's always ways to cover it up, and often it has that extra depth to your page. So I've stuck down my quote, which says, not every day may be good, but there is something good in every day. And that's definitely how I was feeling when I created this page. So it was a perfect quote. And now I'm just adding a touch more Mermaid and a little bit more of that stenciling. Just felt like there was a few areas where I needed a little bit more of that blue as the contrast. And now I grabbed the blue marker. First, I think I came in with the really dark blue marker. Still wasn't happy. So I keep trying lots of options, as I said, but this is when I find the answer. So I pop down the lighter blue marker and it just brings, you know, it pulls it all together and it makes that beautiful mermaid in the background pop. So I coloured in the centre of the other flower, the smaller flower. And then I'm coming in with Funky, which is a hot pink paint, and just doing a few little mark makings of dots. And I'm also rubbing a tiny bit into the background. And as I said, this is a part that neons are hard to see on camera, but in person they just give a little something something. So just tiny little bits on your finger and rubbing into areas of the background. You don't need a lot. You just want to draw the eye into the page. So now I'm going around the quote with some of the shadowing. So I'm using my Stabilo All pencil, which is a water-soluble pencil. You could also use a marker, or you could use a watercolour pencil. And because I've got that depth of colour, that deep shadowy bit on the top left corner, I'm making sure the shadow matches that. So I'm putting this line of shadowing around the top edges of, you know, to match that same, almost like the light is coming in from the bottom right hand side. It's almost like there's a spotlight on this tulip and flower that's got like beaming up at it. So the shadow's actually on the top. So I'm just making sure that I do that in a few areas, so that and what that does is it makes those flowers pop forward off of the page from the background. So yeah, if you don't want to do it the whole way around, a lot of people put the shadow the whole way around, but I do think just putting it on, you know, thinking about where the light is, or just trying it on one side until you practice and until you get better. And then that same blue marker, I have gone over the white highlights, and yeah, this is where I'm really happy, because I'm like, now it seems to all work together. So sometimes you just have to keep playing. You just have to try a few things, keep poking around, and eventually you sort of feel like it's come to the end. So then I use that quotes again, those texture quotes, but there's a gorgeous little scallop in there. So I just put some black archival ink on it, and this just ties, there's a little bit of black around the edges of the flowers, and I don't have any black in the background. So just to tie it together, I stamp that scallopy in 3 areas around my page, and that just ties that black in like I did earlier with the white. So I leave you with lots of close-ups so you can see those gorgeous backgrounds. You can see a bit of the painterly brushwork. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, quite therapeutic, And love the colours. Love, love, love pink and blue and purple together with a touch of red. So thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you soon.